From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Wednesday, March the 18th, the year of our Lord, 2015. And now, here they are, live and in person,
Live?
Jim and Rich.
Live?
Uh-oh.
Jeez.
You're giving us a lot of credit this morning.
Yeah,
John.
you're giving us a lot. I'd say the doctor of the dial seems a little cranky this morning.
I don't know. He's got, there was something going on before we got here. So
Oh,
we'll see.
I don't know. We better behave today because, you don't want to get him mad.
Mm-mm.
No, John says, nah, never mind.
We're good.
Screw around as much as you always do.
Yeah.
That's right. We had what we laughingly refer to as show prep yesterday.
Yeah, do you remember any of it?
I remember a couple of things.
What do you remember?
We talked about the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We did talk about that, and I'm just happened to glance at yesterday's article in the paper, and Steve Greenberg picks Kentucky.
Wow, he's going out on a limb there, isn't he?
He's picking Kentucky to beat Duke. I mean, here we go. We got Kentucky, a number 1 seed, Wisconsin, a number 1 seed, Virginia. Let's see, they were a 2 seed, and Duke a 1 seed in the Final Four.
Jim, I know you didn't see. I actually have seen. Well, not Wisconsin, but I've seen the other ACC teams plus Kentucky that you named.
Yeah.
And I think Duke was worthy of a 1. Obviously, Kentucky should get a 1. I think Virginia was correctly placed as a 2, even though they were ACC champions. And just based on what I saw. And, all good teams. But you know what? I have to say, even Kentucky, with undefeated season going, all of these teams are beatable.
Everybody's beatable when it comes to this. That's the at some point we know this coming Thursday and Friday, a 5 seed is going to lose to a 12 seed.
Mm-hmm.
It always happens.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be Buffalo beating West Virginia or Buffalo beating West Virginia, Wofford beating Arkansas. I just would like to add I could just say Wofford more.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I have an idea on this, but do either of you guys know where what state Wofford is located in?
Carolina, one of the Carolinas?
I would say, I think it's in South Carolina.
Yeah, I think it's South Carolina.
Yeah.
We've got Wyoming could beat Northern Iowa, and Stephen F. Austin could beat Utah. Those are your 12-5.
Well, a couple of those games that you mentioned, Buffalo and West Virginia and Wyoming and Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of what I always say about when ratings. You rate, they say the top 25 and something.
Yeah.
The first 5 teams are probably pretty clear.
Yeah.
But after you get past the other top 5, it's a sort of like, okay, this is who I like, but thanks, John.
Yeah. It's okay, you flip a coin.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You flip a coin, and you look at it and say, wonder what's going to happen here. To me, some of the most interesting games every year can be in the tournament can be the 7-10 game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get some interesting matchups.
Right.
I mean, example this year, the 7-10 in the Midwest is Wichita State and Indiana.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be a pretty good game.
In the West, VCU and Ohio State.
Wow, tough game.
In the East, Michigan State and Georgia.
Yeah, that'd be a good game.
And in the South, Iowa and Davidson. Now, a lot of people think Iowa's going to be one and done. So, Davidson could be an easy pick. A lot of people were wondering, Iowa got in?
Jim, I was going to say and ask you what your thought is on the thing as well. I really think the NCAA or whoever the committee is does a really good job of seeding this tournament. Now, there's an occasional mistake or there's something maybe that you consider political going on.
Yeah.
But as a rule, I'd say 99% they do a really good job.
And I think the team that probably the one team that got screwed the most this year, just because who they wound up in the same bracket with, was Arizona at 31-3, winds up in the same region as Wisconsin. So,
yeah.
you know.
You know what I could never understand? Through the year, Greenberg was questioning whether Wisconsin would be a number one seed. And you know what I was thinking back to, Jim? When we were still probably in high school, I think I started to watch a little basketball, became interested in basketball. And I remember Illinois had a guy, this would be around 67, by the name of Rich Jones, who was a very fine basketball player for the Illini. Michigan State had a gentleman by the name of Lee Lafayette.
I remember him. Yeah.
This was back in the era when Havlicek and Lucas were around, Bill Bunton, Cassie Russell for Michigan.
Yeah.
And I guess to
Cassie
make
Russell,
a long story
Cassie
short,
Russell, Carver High School.
when you are talking about the Big Ten, you can't that is a tough conference. When I looked at the 14 teams that were going to play at the United Center this past weekend, I'm like, you had to go way down to the bottom before you had any what you would think were soft touches. And then on top, I thought that Penn State came up and won a couple games.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too, and I thought Illinois could do reasonably well, and then they stunk out the joint against Michigan.
Yeah.
And it was one of those games like we were talking. You just get some games where you just come out there, you think you're right, and you just come out there and nothing.
Well, think about this, too. Sometimes you get up, Michigan had a little bit poorer record than Illinois.
Right.
Not much, about 4 games
Four
less,
games.
four less wins. But sometimes, hey, I don't care. You could have 10 less wins, and you walk out there and you just match up well against the guys you're playing against.
Yeah.
And so record-wise, are you the favorite? No, but in reality, you are.
Yeah. I mean, seven teams this year from the Big Ten made the tournament.
I think that's warranted.
I think it's warranted. You had Purdue at 21-12, Maryland at 27-6. Still hard to say Maryland is in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still hard to say the Big Ten when there's 14 teams.
Yeah.
Indiana 20-13, Wisconsin 31-3. Let's see, Ohio State 23-10. As I'm going down the list to try to remember where everyone is. Michigan State at 23-11. They were expected to do a lot better this year, and they just really never.
You know what? Though,
never
Jim,
got off the ground.
Think of this though. As I'm watching the tournament proceed, and I'm seeing Michigan State hanging in there. Didn't surprise me at all.
No,
that they were in the championship game.
No, it really didn't. It really didn't.
No.
But I think, and they came from behind to tie. I mean, at one point in time, Wisconsin was down by 11 late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Tied, and Wisconsin just pulled away from them, beat them by, I think it was 11. 11 or 12.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Now, here's the fallacious thing that's always said at this time of the year.
Oh, big words.
We have the 64 after the play-ins. We have the 64 best teams in the country. So why would anybody watch the NIT? Which is a bunch of baloney, because when you start to look at some of the teams that are in this tournament, I'm sure Hampton Institute, if they win their play-in game, is not going to be better than Illinois or Alabama or the other teams that are in the NIT. So that's totally hype and totally bull. And I'm using Hampton as that's just one that pops into my mind. But I'm going to guess there's probably 6 to 10 others that you could probably pick out and say the same thing about.
Yeah.
So I know that they're promoting their tournament and they want to, they want to say, hey, we got the 64 best teams. They don't.
No, they don't. And I mean, the joke for years was always that the NIT is 40 teams playing for the right to say we're number 65.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's not correct.
Or whatever it is now, 32 teams.
Although I would say this, though. I think the way the NCAA fills their tournament is by and large correct.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and the NIT, you know what? I mean, the NIT, I think, still has a place. It gives some schools that might have just missed an opportunity to proceed on. Gives the players tournament experience. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you get the guys who play well in the NIT, and then following year, maybe a young team, they come up and they do well during the regular season and wind up in the NCAA and go deep.
well, I think back in the day, Al McGuire did that with Marquette.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I know Bobby Knight when he was it Knight? Pretty sure it was. I'm not sure if it was Knight or Krzyzewski. When one of them was the Army coach, felt, and this was back in the day when the NCAA was still 16 or maybe 32, and the Army had was right there where they were almost going to qualify for the NCAA.
It was probably Krzyzewski.
He said, "You know what? Let's go to the NIT. That's something we can win."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to view these things.
Yeah.
Now
I know
is there another tournament that's still going? I think there is.
I think there is, and I don't remember what it's called now, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I thought was Illinois wound up getting to be a number 3 seed in the NIT and can't play a home game because the Assembly Hall is under remodeling.
It was being remodeled or reconstructed last year, and they're still. I wonder what the heck they're doing there.
They're putting in boxes and making it fancy. And
oh, fancy! Oh, that's good. Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't think that I'll tell you what. If sports ever has to really rely on the fans anymore, they're in bad shape because, they're doing everything to draw other people into this, which is, I understand it's business. That's what you have to do. You have to expand. But I'm not sure how many real sports fans there really are left today.
I have no idea.
Because I guess I should explain my thoughts, though, because I've been to Assembly Hall once or twice in my life. I went down for the boys' actually the girls' state basketball tournament when it was still down there, high school. And it's a beautiful facility.
It's a nice.
And I obviously, other than it getting older, which could cause some room for improvement, it's a great facility.
It's over 50 years old, so it's the other two tournaments. As I'm looking in here, there is something called the CBI tournament.
CBI, okay.
And then there is the College Insider tournament.
Oh, wow. There's two other tournaments.
Yes. Yeah. Now, tonight in the CBI tournament, a first-round game, Rider is at Loyola. I assume it's Loyola of Chicago. I don't know. It could be Loyola of Maryland. Tonight in the College Insider game, Insider tournament, we have Eastern Illinois at Oakland.
Okay, Oakland, Michigan.
I assume Oakland, Michigan, yeah. James Madison at SC Upstate, South Carolina Upstate.
Okay.
Another one of those phony directional schools. Bowling Green is at St. Francis. Norfolk State is at Eastern Kentucky. And Louisiana Lafayette at INC Word. Incarnate Word?
It could be Incarnate Word.
I would think that would be the case. Other teams in the Insider tournament are High Point, Maryland Eastern Shore. Pat Kennedy coached there, I think, after he left DePaul. Canisius, Dartmouth, Florida Gulf Coast, Texas A&M, CC, Corpus Christi, I would assume. Western Michigan, Cleveland State, remember when Cleveland State made a run in the NCAA?
Cleveland State, yeah.
Yeah. Middle Tennessee, Kent State, Evansville, Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Sam Houston State, Wilmington, Northern Arizona, and Grand Canyon, Portland, and Sacramento State. That's the College Insider tournament.
Okay.
The CBI has Mercer and Stony Brook, Hofstra and Vermont, Delaware State and Radford, UC Santa Barbara. Tell me their nickname.
I forgot.
I think they're the Banana Slugs.
Okay.
Or is that Santa Clara? One of them's the Banana Slugs, one of them's the Anteaters.
Okay.
Oral Roberts, Louisiana Monroe, Eastern Michigan, Colorado, Gardner-Webb, Pepperdine, and Seattle.
That's good to, you know.
It's a-
I tell you what, if any of those games are on TV and there's nothing else to watch, I'd watch some of them.
Yeah.
What the heck? Why not?
That's good for anybody who's a college basketball junkie.
Yeah, it's for a real college basketball junkie. And you know what? You're actually probably going to see some really good players in those games. So
Talking about going on about college basketball, I posed the question to you yesterday.
I bet you I know what it is.
Yes, what if DePaul fired a coach and no one realized it?
And
Or he quit and no one realized it.
Yeah, you know, I was really shocked to pick up the paper and see that Oliver
Purnell.
had resigned on Saturday. And I go, well, the papers didn't report this. And actually, one of the things I was going to mention to you, Jim, we talked a little bit about this. They had a list of prospective coaching candidates. And some of the usual suspects were on there. Mark Aguirre, who's never coached any team ever, anywhere.
I don't even know if he's been an assistant.
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
And then Tyrone Corbin was on the list. But the guy that we started really talking about a little bit, and I find it fascinating because you were giving me the corporate point of view, which I understand. But there was a gentleman by the name of Steve Masiello, who's the coach had been a player at Kentucky under Rick Pitino and Tubby Smith. He was a walk-on, and he's coaching Manhattan, which that nickname I think I remember. Those are the Jaspers.
The Jaspers.
But he was a candidate for what was it? University of South
Florida, USF.
And I think he was actually hired, and then they reneged on. Well, I'll put it this way: they took the offer back. Because he had fudged his resume by saying he was a graduate of Kentucky. And I said to you, well, really, what does that matter? And you said, well, that's the corporate mentality. And I said, I understand that, but here's a man. It's not like I'm saying I've never coached before, and I'm giving you my resume, and one of the things I'm saying is I was a player at Kentucky, and I graduated from Kentucky, so at least I'm a college graduate. This is a man who's already didn't he say he's taken Manhattan to conference championships?
He's had some success.
Yeah,
and I can give you another example where somebody lying about their resume, and his name was in my head.
George O'Leary.
George O'Leary. Thank you.
Yeah.
He lied about his resume, and Notre Dame said nope, thank you.
Yeah,
they hired him, and they said nope. He got fired.
Yes, he did
because he lied on his resume. And again, this is going to be the corporate mentality, and. You know what? I mean, if you lie when you get hired, what are you going to do when you're recruiting?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it leads me to another question. Why would you even do that? Say George O'Leary in his case and Masiello in his case had a coaching background that the schools were really that's what they were really looking at. And you pose a great question. Why would you lie at all? Because we're gonna look. Of course, we're gonna check and see if you're, what you say matches up in some areas, especially when you're talking about jobs or about education. But why would you even lie, Jim? I mean, there's no point to it.
I don't know. That I find that difficult to comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
What are you getting from this? Just lying about. I graduated to.
I mean, that'd be like if 10 years from now LeBron James wanted to coach, and he said, "Yeah, I'm a graduate of Ohio State University." I mean, what purpose would it serve? Okay, we have one of the best basketball players ever. He wants to coach. Okay, you could take that or leave it. You could take that any way you want it. But I'd say his resume, without lying, is pretty good.
Yeah, Yeah, I think he doesn't need to pad his resume to get a job to get a basketball job. For God's sakes.
Of course, he could just buy something.
Yeah, he'd be like Michael.
Yeah,
Michael bought a team, so
sure he didn't. You definitely don't need a resume when you got $1 billion in the bank.
Yeah.
So no resumes required there.
Yeah. No resumes required for us either.
Nah, they never check theirs.
They never check. We just show up.
I said I was a talking head right before Mike North came on the air on WSCR, even though that was a sun up to sundown station. So I was on, and he was the morning broadcaster, so I was the overnight guy.
Yeah, there you go.
So
There you go. I did overnights on the score. I actually one night I did overnights
that's
on the
what
score.
I remember you did.
Yeah, yeah. On the weekends. Mm-hmm. With Dan, I can't even think of his last name. But another guy and I did it. We three of us did the overnight show.
So let me ask you this, Jim. On the we said too. I remember now. I'm recalling some of the show prep. We were going to talk a little bit. What was the way you put it? About the Bears?
That was going to be my next topic. I wanted to know, and I thought about this even more yesterday when I saw the Bears had a signing.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Who did they sign?
They signed guard Vladimir Ducasi.
From who was he? Who was he with?
Exactly.
Okay.
I looked at that, but I posed the question, and I said, especially in the case of the Bears, and maybe for teams in general, is it more important for a team to be a buyer or a builder? Talk amongst yourselves.
All right. Well, the Bears, as we said yesterday, I think they were a buyer and a builder. Mm-hmm. I think they were a buyer in the case of the linebacker McPhee, because I think you're a buyer when you're signing somebody for their potential. And I think even though he's considered a veteran player, I don't believe he's ever been a starter. He's
not.
been pretty productive as a guy coming off the bench, probably in situations, and but he hasn't shown that he's how would you want to put it, a 4-down guy or 3-down guy, however they would want to put it these days. So they're a buyer there, and I think in the case of the signings of Rowley and Royal, they're a builder. Now, some people would say just the reverse of what I'm saying, but I'm saying those guys are building blocks in the sense that they're going to bridge the gap between this initial team and what the Bears hope to have.
What comes down the road?
Yeah,
I agree. Ducasi, a 5-year veteran with 11 career starts between the Jets and the Vikings.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
He's a guard.
Okay.
Now, they talked about some other. I saw an article on the internet about some free agents available that could fit a need. One that I think would be an interesting one, especially considering the age of the incumbent there, is what's his name, Wisniewski, the center at Oakland. I can't remember his first name.
I don't know his
Mike?
first name.
Steve? Mike Wisniewski?
Well, at one time there was a Steve Wisniewski, but I'm not sure if that's who you're talking about there.
Or am I thinking of somebody else? But anyhow, it's Wisniewski, the center. A younger guy, and you have to consider that Roberto Garza, which kind of surprised me that they signed him to an extension. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he's coming back for his 15th year.
Yeah, well, he's a solid guy.
He's a solid guy.
The thing you got to worry about there, of course, is injury, which
right.
it happened last year, right? Because didn't
right.
Who was the guy that we brought in from New Orleans that had to play some games? Van something?
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
But played well.
Yeah, he played fine.
Played well. He fit the mold and was able to step in.
Della Puente. Brian Della Puente.
Della Puente.
Yeah. That's a lot different than Van.
Yeah, that was really close. Really close. John even found that amusing. I was watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I saw another name, though, that they were looking at that was a center, and I unfortunately didn't read about it. It was something like Sekele, Sekele, or in somewhere in that vernacular, and I don't know what team he was from, and probably those who are really experts would be able to tell me in a flash, but that was another name that I had seen out there. So what are you saying, Jim? Buyers or builders? Or
I think you hit it. I was originally thinking builders, but I think you hit it right when you talked about both, because McPhee, the initial thought was, well, he's never really been a starter, that much of a starter, but the potential, everybody talks about his upside potential. So he could be No, John.
I heard something like a phone going off.
Yeah, I heard something in there.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was.
Did you get one? Okay.
No, you know what? It was. I think I got a notice on something on mine, and the phone vibrated.
Okay.
So let me just turn it to mute. I think that's what I heard.
Okay, that might be it.
I thought initially. Like I said, I thought initially, no, they're just builders. They're looking for people to fill those needs, those slots right now, and you hope you hit the home run in the draft. But I when you mentioned that yesterday, I started to agree more on McPhee, the potential he has. Although, I mean, I told you I heard somebody describe me, he can do this, he can do that, and he can play in this position and be a 9 technique. And I'm trying to figure out what 9 technique means.
Yeah,
well, does he? Well, he can go with his left hand on the ground. Then he can go with his right hand on the ground.
Oh wow!
Well, let's see. I don't know.
Well, you got 10 fingers, and including your thumbs. So does that mean on one of those stances he doesn't use his thumb at all?
I'm not sure, but this is that the person who was describing it is a true. As I listen to him occasionally on the radio, that's a football geek.
Yeah, sort of a goof, if you ask me.
But I think he has the potential to fill a need. The other ones that they picked up, building blocks.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Building blocks. Fill a need out until down the road. Eddie Royal is really going to be your third receiver.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're talking
but this is
a
guy.
He's, 31 years old? Same age as Cutler. They came in the league together, so they're probably right there together.
And when Cutler was the quarterback and they were at Denver, I think Royal caught 91 passes one year.
Well, he's going to be a very serviceable receiver. And I have to say, who was I talking about this with the other day? I was in a conversation about football and just quarterbacking and receiving, Jim. And I think we've had this discussion among ourselves before. But you know what, really, I think the problem, if you want to say there's a problem with Jay Cutler, is this. Think about a guy like Eddie Royal, who you're not going to say is a super burner as a receiver, but is a very effective receiver. And there's where the quarterback, how the quarterback sees things is key. Because, there are some quarterbacks, you need to be 3 steps into clear for them to think you're open. There's other quarterbacks who realize you may just have your body between the ball and the defender, depending on what type of pass it is, and you're open. And I think that's where the great ones, where you see, why is Tom Brady, say, or Peyton Manning when he was still really up in his prime, Aaron Rodgers, another good example, why are they so good? And it's because of, I think, what they see and how quick they see it. And then they get rid of the ball. And so, in other words, they're hitting their receivers when they're open. They may not be wide open, but they see when they're open. Other quarterbacks need to see the guy wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's partly because of the quarterback or because of the coaching that they receive. Because, there are a lot of coaches who are obviously deathly afraid of the interception. And they put that fear in their quarterback. And I don't think that's a good thing. I remember when we coached the Junior Rebels one year, and Mark Bruno was the head coach. And Mark had been, all-state quarterback and loved to pass the ball, loved to have the team pass the ball. And he asked me one day what I thought about it, because we had a long history and we had never talked about that. And I said, Mark, you know what? I said, if you're going to pass, you have to accept the interception, because that's going to happen.
That's going to happen. The more,
so
the more you pass, the more opportunities there are.
That's right. So, and I think the other part of that equation is, if you put the fear of the interception in your quarterback, I don't think that's a good thing. I mean, you don't want him to be careless, but you don't want him to be afraid either.
No, you don't. And I mean, you put the put the fear in, you put the fear of it in him. It's going to get in his head, and he's going to, just like some of the things we've talked about baseball wise, his mechanics would probably be more than likely to be screwed up.
Yeah, I agree. I think, once there's too much thinking, think about the great coaches, Jim. Vince Lombardi, John Wooden, Frank Leahy, whoever else you want to name. They were great ones for repetition, because repetition is what makes you, effective. The great Packer sweep. I mean, they would literally practice that for hours. The players, every player at every position could tell you based on what the defense was doing, what they had to do. And so when it happened, it's a simple play. But they knew how to react. John Wooden's
the beauty of it was its simplicity.
Exactly. I mean, John Wooden himself would probably say to you, I wasn't much of a game coach. We whatever we were going to do, we were going to do, and the other team was going to have to react to us. We weren't reacting to them, and I think there's a lot to that. I think some coaches, just feel that the big thing is, okay, we got to scout the opposition and we got to react to them, and this guy throws that pitch or this guy does this on defense. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to drill my team and make them strong on what we want to do. And when I look at, a guy, we talked the other day, I think you threw baseball in there for a minute. You talk about a guy that, like Javier Baez, I think a great physical talent.
Yeah.
I'm just, now he's even saying, okay, I'm all screwed up. And I don't know what's wrong with my swing.
He's got the voices in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he admits himself that I'm trying to concentrate and do this. I'm trying to concentrate and do that. And he's screwing himself up. Where maybe a couple of weeks down is something he needs to do.
Well, I'd say this. I think they've put themselves in a real tricky situation because I know last year, at least my feeling was, he didn't react well. After having a couple really strong springs, he didn't react well to being sent to AAA. And to quote our ex,
he got hurt too, didn't he?
No, I think they sent him down.
No, that was the year before.
To quote our ex-president, Mr. Clinton, I feel his pain.
Oh yeah.
We brought up a guy yesterday over coffee, Brett Jackson, who I thought looked like a pretty good ball player, but there might be another guy whose head was all screwed up because everybody was telling him this, and this. When I saw that guy, the first thing I thought of was Rick Monday. Rick Monday with the long swing, and you know what? Rick Monday. Here was a guy. Okay, just let me finish my thought.
Finish the thought.
Here was a guy who was a leadoff man for a lot of his career, and not a prototypical leadoff man, other than the fact he had speed. Because here was a guy with long swing, would strike out quite a bit, had power, could hit 25, 30 homers, and
not bad for a leadoff.
But I think the point I would make is this. They could have fiddled with his swing, saying, we need to make it more compact. But you know what? He was very effective the way he did it. And I think the smart thing was, I'm assuming people left him alone, and he had a good career. And what I'm saying is sometimes you just got to leave people alone and figure some things out for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll leave you alone for a minute while we take a station break.
You're listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, March the 18th, the year of our Lord, 2015, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Jim and Rich.
Now I forgot what we were talking about.
You know what, Jim? I wanted to sort of continue on something because you got me thinking here about say overcoaching or just leaving guys sort of on their own. Say you're a football coach. You coach defense. Okay, defense is sort of a free form type of thing. There are keys that defensive players watch. There are things that they are areas that they have responsibility for. But in reality, if you, say you're a defensive coordinator, and your players are like your little puppets. Okay, you're the puppet master. They're the puppets. You really don't want that. Because I can tell you as the coach, this is what I want you to watch and this is what I want you to do. But in reality, to have an effective defensive team, what I would really like is 11 really sharp players who, instead of doing what I tell them to do, look at what's happening on the field in front of them and do what needs to be done.
And react to it.
Right.
In other words, you would be looking for someone who not only can follow whatever the defense is that you're supposed to run at that particular situation, but if something else happens, react to it.
That exactly.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Follow instructions, but also have the knowledge to understand what's coming at you.
It's exactly right. You know what? Pay attention to me, but if you see something different, forget everything I said. Okay, because
and react. Which
Jim, when I was a junior, the first varsity football game I ever started was at Mundelein, and I played the inside linebacker. And I have to say, probably the only time that I can remember playing football or any sport. I mean, and the coaches were very, and I don't remember what Mundelein actually ran. That's even vague still. But they had a certain way that they wanted you to react to some of the things that that Mundelein was doing. I never got that quite right that whole week of practice. And I'll never forget the week of the game, I was the high points man on defense. I had the most tackles and most assists. But I knew I played terrible. I knew I was not where I was supposed to be most of the time. And I think everybody else knew that. The coaches knew it. The other players knew it. It was an embarrassing thing. And the interesting thing is that I was trying to follow the instructions of the coaches, and it did. And I'm not knocking the coaches, but it messed me up. I should have just looked at what was going on and done something about it.
Reacted to what was in front of you. By the way, I had a Tri-County flashback moment over the weekend. I did a tax return for a lady, and her daughter went to Lake Park High School.
Oh, wow.
I said, wow, I'm having Tri-County flashbacks.
Hey, great conference.
Yeah.
Great conference.
Yeah. All right, speaking of baseball, as we were before in the Cubs, Kris Bryant, been hitting a ton, a lot of home runs down there.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it? Now, look, we got to think two aspects here. We got to think from a baseball aspect and from a business aspect. Is it worth it to bring him up at the start of the season and let him play, or keep him down in the minors for 2-3 weeks at the most, maybe 3 weeks at the most, just to keep that extra year of control on him?
Well, I'd say this. I would, it's a hard question. A real hard question, because if you look at what the paper is writing this morning, I don't know if it's what you're looking at or on the front part of the sports section there, but they'll say, if Epstein really thinks that the Cubs can contend, should they keep Bryant from the beginning of the season? And that's what threw a real question into my mind this morning, because I'm thinking, I don't really think the Cubs are going to contend. I think they'll be better. So do you think now maybe it's just the way the question is framed that's throwing me off, because I don't think they're going to contend. But do I think that based on what he's doing, should they bring him up to the big leagues? I think that looks like the guy is ready for the big leagues. What I'd like to see him do is make a decision instead of all this fiddle farting around that they're doing in spring training here.
Is that okay to say, John? Fiddle farting? I figured it must be. You didn't go for the phone.
But, I'd like to see him make a decision and say, okay, Kris Bryant is going to start the season at third base, whether he's a butcher or not. But I'd also like to see them make a decision
as to what position he's actually going to
No,
play.
I want him to start at third.
Okay.
But I want him also to be able to start Mike Olt. I want Mike Olt to get some time. So why I'm saying this should be done now, and hey, they may decide something else. Bryant and left, Olt at third. I want both of those guys to start the season with the Cubs, because I want to see what they do in the big leagues. I think Olt maybe has straightened out some of the things that were wrong with him. I don't know. It sounds, I haven't heard anything super negative, but I think he was a big prospect when the Cubs got him. And I'd like to see them both come together. I want to see the Cubs be the anti baseball now. Because baseball has become it's gone back more towards the John McGraw days, where it was inside baseball, bunting and moving the runner along, and those things are all fine. You got to move the runner along when you have a chance.
Yeah.
You got to score the runner from third with a ground ball when he's there with less than 2 outs.
Right.
Those are things the Cubs don't do well. But I also want to see the Cubs return baseball to what it was half a dozen, 10, 15, 20, even 40 years ago, or whenever in 61 when we had the big Babe Ruth chase with Mantle and Maris. I want to see them have a power club. I want to see Baez and Olt and Bryant and Rizzo all in the same lineup. I want to see the Cubs knocking balls over the fence.
I want to see a bunch of guys that can hit anywhere from 25 to 40 to 25 to 45 home runs in the lineup. I'd love to see other teams be scared when the Cubs come in and say, "Oh my God, look at the middle of this lineup. We're going to get killed."
Yeah.
We got to have our best pitching out there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? But I also look at the point from a business standpoint because the numbers are always there. You know, and I guess the aspect you have to look at, and Morrissey even brought this thing up here in his article. He said bringing him to Chicago with the big league team in April would allow him to become a free agent a year earlier than the Cubs had wanted. But guess what? If you believe in what you're building, you're confident he'll want to stay with the Cubs after he hits the market following the 2020 season. If he's as good as you think he is, you'll outbid everyone when the time comes.
Yeah.
Now, the example of what a lot...
You're right. He's right.
He is right in that, but I also understand from the business aspect of what the Ricketts and Epstein and Hoyer want to do. If they send him down, okay, that extends us out to having to make that decision until 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that $20 million that he might be looking for in 2020, well, that could buy us pretty doggone good pitcher.
Well, the player and his agent aren't stupid, though.
No,
so
you got Scott Boras.
How does that set with the player?
Yeah,
I mean, in other words, what you're saying is, I might have, if I'm really good, I might have a chance to make some really big money. It's splitting hairs, really, Jim. But
it really
you
is,
never know how people are going to react.
Yeah. I mean, you have Scott Boras, and you know how he's going to be. No matter what.
Well, he's pedal to the metal.
Absolutely. Here's another example on what it did, and you can think about this too. I agree with both sides. Mm-hmm. I can look at both sides and say both sides it makes sense on both sides. Bring him up now if you believe in him, and just like you say, get these guys into the lineup and get the opportunity. Are they going to be a pennant contender this year? I don't know. Are they going to be better? They can't be much worse than they've been.
Well, let me ask you this.
But no, the one point I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Mike Trout.
What about him? Is he coming to the Cubs?
No, but just as an example, in 12, the Angels sent him down to keep that extra year of control.
Mm-hmm.
They went 6-14 before they called him up.
Mm-hmm.
Then they won 60% of their games from that point on, and they missed the playoffs by 4 games.
Wow. Yeah, well, I guess they'd be kicking themselves figuring that he might have made a difference there in that first 20 games.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to ask you. Everybody has made a super big deal about, we kick Renteria out the door, and we got Joe Maddon. And we've talked about this a couple times already. But what the heck do you think about Joe Maddon? Even with his reputation, is he the right man for this type of club? Because look at what seriously, look at what Joe Maddon, the type of players that he managed in Tampa Bay versus the type of players that he's going to have here in Chicago.
I would have to look at those first 2 years in Tampa Bay when he took over that club. In the first year, they lost 101 games. And then I think they lost 95 games the second year, and then the third year they went in the World Series. They wound up in the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
What happened during those first 2 years that led to that third year? That's what I would want to. That's what I would have to see. What did he have to build? what did he have when he got there, and how did he build that team? Mm-hmm. And that's going to give, I think that's going to give us all an idea of what's going to happen here. You know, what did he do with the material that his general manager gave him?
Yeah. Okay.
I think he might have. I think it might be a different situation here because you started to see some of the benefits. You started to see some of the benefits of what's been going on in the Cubs system. Started to see a little of it last year.
Mm-hmm.
What'd they win? 71 games?
Yeah, I think they won over 70,
yeah.
Which was an improvement.
Yeah, which was an improvement.
Yeah.
So he's not exactly coming into a situation where the cupboard is totally bare, and I don't know what it was when he took over in Tampa. I think, what was that? It was after Piniella left.
You know what I keep? I don't know what the situation was, Jim. What I was thinking about is that remember in '64 when the Cardinals beat the Yankees for the pennant, and the Yankees kicked Yogi Berra out the door after one season, and they hired the Cardinals manager Johnny Keane. And I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but it sort of reminded me of Madden. Johnny Keane came over, and not saying Johnny Keane was a bad manager, but the players would say, good guy, but just didn't fit our style of play. We were the Yankees, okay? We were this, we knocked the ball over the fence. We didn't play. And when you think about it, think about the way the Cardinals played back then, even though they did have some big hitters, but think about their guys were guys like Brock and Flood and people like that.
Guys that could run, and the Yankees really didn't have that.
And the Yankees didn't have that, so it was never a match. Now, and it might be an unfair, actually unfair to talk about this to everybody because the Yankees also were at the point where they're going to go into decline. But I think they felt that they could have still won a little bit. Yeah. And but I'm thinking, okay, you got Joe Madden, who's an AL manager. He's big on, he had a guy like Ben Zobrist, which I know the Cubs were trying to get before Oakland got him, and a guy he likes to move around. I'm saying he has a whole different style of managing maybe than what fits the Cubs. We were talking the other day about when Leo DeRocher came to the Cubs, and in '69 when they, as everybody says, they blew the pennant, and one of the criticisms was that he played the same lineup day in and day out. But I was saying to you, well, was he going to play Gene Oliver for 3 days in a row, or Pee Wee Oliver, or Willie Smith, or whoever else? They didn't have.
Paul Popovich is going to be your shortstop?
Yeah,
no, it's not.
I think he played the hand that he was dealt. And I would say, this is what I would say. I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm going in a very roundabout way. Take these kids, these young guys that you think are good players, put them on the field every day. Don't play this game of, okay, we're going to give so-and-so, a couple days off because it's his time. We're going to give Anthony Rizzo 2 days off because it's his time to, take a breather. No, play him and play him and play him because that's what they need to do is play. Maybe at some positions like catcher where you got some veterans, then you
can mix and match. And just like you talked before when you said play him every day, because with the young players, what is it going to take them? What is it going to take for them to learn? Repetition.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Yeah,
repetition.
If you think that Chris Bryant is not, you said to me the other day, people are saying he's a butcher at third, which means he probably has booted a couple balls, or you said he has a shoulder problem, so he's not throwing well. But how do you think you correct that? Do you correct that by playing him at third base and then left field and then first base and or even a Mike Holt?
You're going to have to
play him where you need to play him.
Play him where you need to play him. By the way, the Cubs entered play Monday with 16 errors, the fourth most in the Cactus League.
Yeah,
and then 2 more in the game on Monday.
So I would say this: you need to obviously part of what you need to do if you have a situation where you're making too many errors is, I think those guys, instead of days off, they need to be, maybe you need to have them play, the A game and then play a B game on the back lot or something. I mean, they need to play a lot. these are young guys. They're going to make mistakes, but they need to play, and they don't need to be having days off. They don't need your plan. They don't. Arizmendi Alcantara doesn't need to play third base today and center field tomorrow and back to third and over to second.
He needs
to
a
play
position.
somewhere.
He needs a position. I understand the idea of versatility because let's face it, if you're going to go into a game, if you're going to go into a season and you're going to have 12 men on your pitching staff, you're not going to have much on the bench.
No, and it's good they have the versatility. All I'm saying is play him in a spot if you need him. You need to play. Say that somebody, the center fielder has he's got a little boo boo. So play him in center when you need to play him. But find him a position. He's I just some of this stuff that they do is ridiculous. And these are young players. They a guy who's 22 years old doesn't need to be a utility guy. He needs to be an everyday player.
He needs to be an
opinion.
everyday player. That's right. That's right. I think John's nodded off there.
Mm-hmm.
He
loved the Cubs.
I just looked down. I just looked up. I thought the doctor of the dials was taking a nap.
No way.
No way.
He's intrigued by what we're saying.
I know. What else should we talk about today? We got about 10 minutes left.
I noticed that I talked to you right before the show. I noticed that Joe Colley will not leave Tom Thibodeau and the Bulls front office the subject of that alone for very long. He's constantly trying to drum it up, and I saw that in his story. I thought we're going to get a lot of comments from the players, and the only actual comment that was germane to what he's talking about was by a veteran that would not even be named.
Let his name here.
Plus, he didn't even say if it was a veteran that was still on the Bulls. For all we know, it could be a veteran from another team. I don't know.
A veteran player said last week when the Bulls were in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's Cowley.
Yeah, but let's put it this way, Jim. I would think that when you're a GM and you're a coach, and John Paxson, he's president now?
President of the basketball operations.
Okay,
right?
but he was a very veteran NBA player, so he's got strong opinions about basketball. I mean, Gar Forman, I'm assuming, is not a dumb man since they put him in the position of GM, and I think the Bulls are a pretty smart organization, so I'm sure he's got strong opinions. Tibbs has got strong opinions, and I'm sure that they don't always agree. But is that unusual?
No.
So, and you know what? And maybe see one of the things that he mentioned in the article, because I looked at it real quick, was that the front office is telling Tibbs that certain players, Derrick Rose and it might have been Taj Gibson, were to limit their practice time. And or it could have been Noah maybe, and some people have had their. I know Joakim Noah has had his minutes limited in games. And see, if I'm Tom Thibodeau, that doesn't mean because the front office says this that I take offense or that you're stepping into my territory. I mean, you are in a sense. But okay, this is my philosophy. These guys, as long as they're okay, I'm going to play them as many minutes as I think they should, or I'm going to practice them this way. But maybe I'm the type of guy who feels good when the front office comes in and says, okay, these guys need X amount of minutes a game, or these guys need an X amount of minutes of practice time during the week. And say, okay, because I'm not going to do that myself. I'm all out. I want these guys to practice all the time. But I really don't have a problem with you coming in and saying there's a limit on what they're going to do because maybe that's my blind spot and I realize it.
And I think the players realize they have a job to go out and do, and just like Tibbs always says, do your job.
Right.
And I think the great example of that is Taj Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a quote in here in Cowley's column. He says about when they talk about the whatever is going to happen with the rumors going around Thibodeau. He said, I can't think about stuff like that. He said, I've got to think about things that I can do by helping the team, play strong defense, help getting us wins. The rest will take care of itself.
That's true.
And that's the philosophy the players should have.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing they can do. That's the only thing they can control.
Mm-hmm.
They can control their performance out on the court.
Yeah.
They have no issue or whatever is going on in the front office. That's not a situation that they need to be involved with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can it affect them? Yeah, it can affect them head-wise.
Well, yeah. You probably have been in working situations where. Thanks, John. That's good. I appreciate it. You've probably been in working situations where you work with people where, you know, there were rumors about what was going to happen at work, maybe jobs-wise or whatever. Now, some people, their attitude was, hey, I'm just going to come to work every day and forget about those rumors. They were focused, and that didn't bother them. But there were other people who, boy, oh boy, okay, I'm going to do my job, but you know what? When I get around the water cooler or we get a chance to have a little break at lunch, I'm going to talk about these rumors. So it's sort of, I don't know. I'm not saying it keeps them from doing their job, but they're interested in more than just their job. They're interested in the whole picture.
I mean, I can, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I can give you an example that involved me. That when I left the real estate office, basically when the owner decided I was the problem, and as I walked out the door, the other manager thought to himself, he said, now that Jim's gone, we'll be lucky if we last a year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was 14 months later, and they closed the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. And he said, you were the stability that walked out the door. Mm-hmm. You were the person that understood the financial side. You were the person that understood the systems. When you walked out the door, we were doomed. He said, and quite frankly, he said, I lost interest at that point.
Mm-hmm. But there was probably other people who try to, maybe put that aside. Maybe they knew that, but you know what? I'm going to come to work, and as long as this office stays open, I'm going to, just do what I do.
And do what I could do, and do what I do. There were some that did that, but some also looked at it and said,
exactly,
this is not being run like a business anymore.
I would assume, though, that all of them, as long as they still came to work, did their job.
They did their job.
Right.
As Tibbs would say, do your job.
Do your job.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
What else should we talk about there today, Mr. Massaro? We got about 4 minutes left before we need to boogie out the door.
Well, I see you. The other page that you're open to is
Versteeg is the latest.
Versteeg is bumped to the off the first line.
Off the first line.
Does it say though? I didn't read that far. Does it say who's taking his place on the first line there?
Let's see. Well, you know what? I mean, if Q wants to get somebody's attention, they usually become a healthy scratch. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's usually the way Q grabs
your attention. Man.
Grabs your attention.
Gets your attention real quick.
Yeah, get your head straight. You're gonna get the scratch. I guess Sharpie moved up.
Oh, okay. Well, those couple of goals in San Jose helped, huh?
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, you know what'd be great, Jim, if Sharp revived as we come down the stretch here, and
he was on the Tays line with Hossa.
Because Versteeg, well, he'll get the message very quick. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to let the grass grow under his feet. When he comes out after his healthy scratch, you'll see some bodies flying, and you'll see some action from Versteeg, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so, too. That's usually what it has to be. I guess both teams this year, you look at them, they have their moments when they look absolutely brilliant, but it's just they have been consistently inconsistent.
They have, although
and it's frustrating to watch.
I put it this way: I'm not frustrated by the Bulls, but I'm more frustrated for the Bulls because I think they've put together a good team. But I think the reality is always going to be, as long as LeBron James is in the way, we don't. That's like when you play checkers and you get kinged. And the other guy's got the kings, and you don't have any kings. You know what? The king's gonna he can move all over, and he's gonna beat you all the time.
Yep.
Whatever happened with that Blackhawk player that somebody was making rumors about him, and he was
That was Sharp.
whatever came about that, Jim?
Kind of just disappeared.
Died away.
disappeared.
Blew
That just disappeared.
So in other words, it was false.
Well, I don't know if it was false, but the rumors disappeared, and Patrick Sharp said he'd sue anybody who continued with the story. So the story just kind of pushed to the background.
So my guess is that when he comes out with a statement like that, he feels strongly, and he probably feels that he can prove that this is all wrong.
And I mean and I think it's a point too that's to me, you can always see with that club, that's a very tight club, and they're going to protect their own, even if there is a problem. They don't want that to get out and ruin their cohesiveness and destroy their cohesiveness. So even if there was an issue, we're going to say we're going to settle this amongst ourselves, and it's not going to be publicized. It's not going to be in the press. To me, that's the kind of team it is. To me, that's the way I view that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, guys, I have to ask you this. I'm going to the St. Joseph's dinner at Sieb Center tonight, so I figured since
That's
it's St.
nice.
Patty's Day, I'd wear green.
And you got red too.
But I got red under it because it's a St. Joseph's Day dinner. So
I-
how do you like that?
I was gonna compliment you. I figured you had the green. I saw the Massaro mobile parked across the street.
Yeah.
I figure you got to go put some signs in.
Got to go get some signs. John, I got your sign in the car.
And it's nice you got your Christmas decorations down too, John.
Jim, I was thinking as I'm walking
I-
down John's walk, last time we were here, which was only 2 weeks ago, that was all iced
Ice,
over
I
by
was-
the downspout.
Yeah, and I was glad you got your Christmas decorations.
Yes, so am I. I was afraid Santa Claus would run into Easter Bunny.
I was afraid of that. I was wondering what was going to happen.
I know I have to go up to Wisconsin and take the stuff down up there yet, but I won't be up there until after Easter. So I might have a problem with Easter, with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny.
There might be some eggs you find
Yes,
hidden
yes.
hidden in the creche.
Yep.
Up there. So,
But I'm very happy that that ice on the sidewalk over here melted, and the storage on the other side of that wall that you're looking at there, that's all full of Christmas and Halloween stuff. So
okay.
thank God that was put away.
Finally got that
Yeah.
put away.
Yep.
Now we figure well, it's going to cool off. It's going to be about normal for this time of year, upper 40s, but
Yeah.
I got to figure opening night it's going to be 35 degrees, and about the fourth inning it'll start to snow.
Oh boy, when is opening?
April 5th.
At
Wrigley opens April 5th.
Easter Sunday?
Easter
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Easter Sunday, Sunday night. Cubs and the Cardinals. Fourth inning, yeah, I think, about 34, 35 at game time, and about fourth, fifth inning, you'll start to see snow. I've been to games like that in April.
Oh yes, yes.
I
yes.
went one year on opening day. I had a parka on there, and I said I have been warmer when I was a kid sitting in the upper deck with my dad and my uncle watching Bears games than I was that day. The only thing I could say that was really good that day about that day is my beer never got warm, but I couldn't keep score because the ink in my pen froze.
Well,
Oh, geez.
I know several times Oscar and I had gone to Wrigley Field because Joe Gentile always threw out the first ball because he always used to take the graduating class from St. Ignatius High School and treat them to a day at Wrigley Field, right? Just after the opening day. And a few times Oscar and I sat up in the stands. Man, we were cold up there. And so I believe what you're saying about
Oh yeah,
opening day.
I've had some miserable opening days, and I just can't go to that anymore. Besides that, I'm right in the middle of my favorite time of year,
Tax season.
tax season.
Yep.
Hey, a couple other things Hawks wise, the news to keep in mind. Trevor Van Riemsdyk played a couple of games over the weekend for Rockford.
Okay.
That's his first action since he fractured his left patella back in November. Now, with Timonen, I don't know if Van Riemsdyk is going to get any opportunities in the postseason, but you got to think that he could push David Rundblad for some time down the road.
It's possible, but David Rundblad, I don't think has been scratched all that much. I think he's gotten a little bit of Quenneville's confidence. So I'm not sure how that's all going to work out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And you know what? I mean, it bodes well for the defensive for the defenseman down the road because I mean it's already been said Timonen is going to retire after this year, and they got him for whatever purpose they needed, and when understood it was going to be kind of a rent-a player.
I'll tell you, the Hawks are really they're smart. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Made me kind of scratch my head on the deal, but I understood it.
Yep.
After I thought about it a little bit.
Yep.
What are you smiling about? What are you smirking about there, DeVita? He's sitting there like he's...
I don't know. He's like the cat that ate the canary.
I know. I just look at him like that. He's got that smirk on his face. All right,
I just happened to look at the calendar I have sitting here in front of the board. Today is the 17th, which we're broadcasting. Which we're broadcasting tomorrow, the 18th.
Right.
And the next time, you guys will be. Oh no, I take that back. Okay, I was say the next time you guys are going to be on the air will be next month, which will be April 1st.
How fitting for us.
All Fool's Day.
All right.
How fitting for us. By gosh,
Definitely.
Yes. I just glanced up at the calendar in this room and realized we record on the 31st. Yes, April Fool's Day. Boy, what a perfect time for us.
That'll be fun.
That'll be the day we'll be aired. It'll be aired on April 1st.
Perfect timing for us.
Yep.
All right.
But the thing is, I must say, it's always a pleasure having you guys. And I was sitting here the other night having supper with Oscar, and I was telling him I said, how much I miss you and Rich at Ridgewood High School with the basketball games and all that. It just seems like it's just a big letdown right now until the next season.
Well, we'll get through. We've got football. We'll be back for football. We'll be back for basketball. Looks like from the promo sheet from that last game, we've been picked up.
Yeah, that's right.
We've been renewed.
We've renewed. They didn't even ask us.
They didn't even ask us. We've been renewed. Now we still are going to have to negotiate our own reserved parking spaces, though, because I'm getting tired of walking too far. John goes, "Come on, just forget about it. If I don't get one, you don't get one either." All right, time for us to get out of here. We appreciate you listening. Thanks to the Doctor of the Dials for putting up with our nonsense. Mr. DeVita, it's always been a pleasure.
Same here, guys.
All right. We'll see you next time. We are out of here. We are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, March the 18th, the year of our Lord 2015 on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with the WRHS sports announcers Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita. And our special thanks to our radio station manager, Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Shikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, March the 17th, the year 2015. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.